Well, good morning. As we come into this morning, we started a series last week about women of the Word. And last week we looked at Ruth and Naomi and the loyalty situation there. And the reality, really where it comes down to, is the kinsman redeemer. That Boaz in the Old Testament was Ruth and Naomi, the kinsman redeemer, and that we have a redeemer today. And that should change our life because we have that redeemer to do so. And this morning where's Mel? Are you in here, Mel, yet? Yeah, come on up here, Mel. So you were given, if you're one of the ladies, you haven't figured it out yet, you were given a little sheet that says, please tell me what woman of the Word has impacted your life and why, how. And so I got this from Melanie. Most of you know Melanie. She's just she is a stalwart in our church. We talk about the fact of women in the church. Last week we looked at the role of women, and that women, man, they are the foundation of so much of what we do. And you're one of those. You are one of those women. And she just, man, with our kids, with her kids, everything, it is amazing. So you wrote about a certain person. Tell us who you wrote about and why.
I wrote about Dorcas. First of all, I love her name.
Dorcas. I think I would go by the other one.
Tabitha.
Tabitha, yeah.
But I like Dorcas because we're all a little bit weird. Okay. And I don't think her mother probably knew that Dorcas would be of some significance to us in this day. I wouldn't name any of my kids that, but I love her name. But it says in the Word that she was abounding with deeds of kindness and charity, in which she continually did. And I just love that because it didn't say that she did it one day or she had a big rally and those things are great, but she did them continuously. And I think, it doesn't say so in the Word, but I think that she probably did them without any real recognition. She just kind of was behind the scenes. She ministered to the widows and to the poor in her town. And I don't want to take, there's not very much about Dorcas in there. It's not like she has a whole book. So I don't want to take up the whole story, but she was recognized mainly by her God and then the people who she serviced to.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about her, that she just went about and did her thing.
She did her thing unknown by many, huh?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Give Melanie a hand. And now she's headed back to Junior Stars to serve, to be the unknown. Give me just a moment. For me, this is personal for me. It's really not for anybody else. As we did that last song, it's hard for me to focus on both at times. Boy, I screwed up that song, and I don't know if the band ever caught where I was. I don't know if I couldn't see you behind me. Didn't care. I just sang. So, but then I realized I just lost everybody. I just lost everybody there. But again, to focus on the Word this morning, because maybe my screw up is exactly what it needs at times for us to look at our lives and our worship, why we worship, and where does the impact come from. Worship means offering. What do we offer to God? And I think the reality is whether you can sing or not has nothing to do with your worship as unto the Lord. Whether the people around you want to hear you sing or not has nothing to do with your offering as unto the Lord. And as we come to look at Dorcas, Tabitha, really what we're looking about is lives with impact. You can read that either way you want. Lives with impact or lives with impact. They would both be the same. Who has the impact in your life? We talk about impact. What is it that impact really means? How do we define that? And oftentimes we think impact is the big things, the dramatic. How can I make an impact on my world? How can I make an impact on society? Maybe it's how many friends you have on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook guy. I get all these requests for friends. I don't know any of them. I don't know them. I guess they're just out there mining. I guess that's what you do. You try to get this big number. I don't know who you are, but you want to consider me a friend. And is that the impact that we have? Do we live with impact today? Some people look at the dramatic and say, well, if it's dramatic, that's the big impact. If I'm Billy Graham, if I'm doing something dramatic, that would be impact. But do we have impact? Do we live with impact? And oftentimes we'll ask the question, what great thing can I do? What great thing can I do with the impact of my life? Man, our society in so many ways tries to change the impact and says what will really make impact. We find Dorcas in Acts chapter 9. As we come to Acts chapter 9, you're going to see in Joppa. Joppa was a seaport city. It was big. In fact, if you study Joppa, you'll find back, it has a huge history. You'll find, Jonah, all the different things that go through Joppa. In Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. She was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time, she became sick and died. And her body was washed, placed in an upstairs room. Lydda was near Joppa. So when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, please come at once. Peter went with them. And when he arrived, he was taken upstairs to the room. All the widows stood around him, crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. Peter sent them all out of the room. Then he got down on his knees and prayed. Turning toward the dead woman, he said, Tabitha, get up. She opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. Then he called for the believers, especially the widows, and presented her to them alive. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. Peter stayed in Joppa for some time with a tanner named Simon. What is the impact of our life? What is the impact that we see in our life? See, we think today in our society, we've talked much about what kingdom living looks like. What is it for us to live as citizens of heaven versus citizens of this world? How it changes our attitude, how it changes our heart, how it changes our value of people. When we live as the citizens of where we are at heaven instead of here, we are aliens in a foreign land. When we live that way, our lives are to be lived with impact. Yet this world says that the impact that we have, it involves getting, that impact getting. And yet the heavenly kingdom says it's not about impact getting. Heavenly kingdom says it's impact giving. Are we giving? Are we using our lives to give to others? Man, I'm telling you what, so many times our impact in this world is to get, to have, to keep, to do the things that look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm going to have possessions, I have power, I have all these things that are impacted our life are by all the things that we amassed. All the things that we think are going to take us and give an impact. Look at all the things I have. And so impact getting is about me. And yet when it comes to it, it is impact living, and impact giving is giving those things, to give as unto the Lord, to give our life, and to do that someday when we stand before God in heaven. All the things that we think will bring importance, all the getting things that we will get, they will not be there. It will not be there. We will look around and we will see perhaps the people that we have impacted for the cause of Christ, that we have impacted in growing for Christ. Man, there's so much of this impact getting. This week was talking to a gentleman. He doesn't know the Lord. His believing is not part of his, he just doesn't believe in the Lord. And as he was talking in this group, I heard about this huge mansion, huge house, thousands and thousands, in excess of 10,000 square feet in his house. That's a hotel, dude. Huge this. The number of businesses, huge entrepreneur. The number of businesses, the amount of money in the bank. And I heard about all the lands that he owned and all the things, this impact getting. His life was about amassing these things. Impact getting. But guess what? He's going to leave it all. When he dies, he'll leave every bit of it. It will not go with him. And when you realize all the things that he's amassed could be used to impact giving in the ways of giving to seek first the kingdom of God, if he knew the Lord, the ways all this stuff that we amass could be used, impact giving. And it starts very simple. Our impact giving starts not on what we have, but who we hang out with. Do the people that you hang out with, your friends, would they feel that you are bringing them closer to knowing Jesus more faithfully? And the people that you hang out with, are they causing you to know Jesus more faithfully? Now, I'm not talking about the issues of, hey, I met somebody, I want to share Christ. I understand we're in the world, not of it, all of that. But I'm talking the people that you speak into their life and they speak into yours. Is that a relationship that is an impact giving, living with purpose? The living with the purpose of our life, the people of our life. Do we live that way? God says we are to have purpose. And it comes down to the purpose that he gives us. And he says that the purpose of our life is to impact people. It's amazing that we somehow get so far afield within this. That we should get up every day. Yes, his mercies are new, his grace is new, all the faithfulness that we have. But do we share that with others? Do we impact others within that? The people of our life, the issue of living with purpose. Man, people, it's amazing how we come. We need to make Christ known. Every church, just about every Protestant church will, to know him and make him known. You can walk in just about anywhere and see that. That God loves people, loving God, loving people. The monikers of so many of our churches. To love God and love people of all breed, of all stripe, of all color, of all ethnic. To love people. Man, are you live with people who are selfish? Do you live with people who are not giving and drawing you closer to Jesus? Or are they removing you from Jesus? Are they having the world's view, the citizen of this world versus the citizen of the kingdom of God? And sometimes we need to look at the issues of the people, the words that are coming into us. Who is the impact of our life? Dorcas was amazing. Amazing when you think about it. We look at that, and what most people see is that she was raised from the dead. Why was she raised from the dead? Do you think she was raised from the dead so she could make more robes? Doesn't say that at all. In fact, that wasn't the purpose. It wasn't the purpose of raising her from the dead so she could continue the ministry that she had. Because then all of a sudden, if it were just about the robes, her robes would be the best, most wanted robes in town, right? Everybody would want that robe because that's from Tabitha, that's from Dorcas. The reality of her life, Peter raised her from the dead because her influence was huge in serving in small ways with people. And her influence was large. And when Peter raised her from the dead, it was so that those people would see the glory of God. It wasn't about what the ministry she was performing. It was that they would see and believe that, yes, her God was the God of Jehovah, the Messiah. You look at Dorcas's life, Tabitha's life, and I thought of it's a small world. It really is a small world. And the impact when we talk about, I don't think the impact that God wants us to have, God may allow some of you, some of us, to have a huge impact. I don't know where God's going to take you. I don't know where doors God's going to open. And you may have this huge impact, the Billy Graham impact. But most of the time, most of our lives, God's called us to, it's a small world. And the impact that we need to make in the lives of others, it may be the smallest thing that you can see. It's a small world. Maybe it's looking in small ways to help, small ways to be seen as honoring God within that. The small world with small people, not looking for the great thing, but do we have a heart to look and say, God, can I help in small ways? In a small way, can I help? Man, I'm telling you what, there's times that the power of care is so, so huge. Man, we all know the power of someone caring, do we not? The power of encouragement. The difference between encouragement and affirmation. Encourage, thank you for what you've done versus, man, I'm going to affirm you for who you are. Man, it may be nothing more than a phone call before a serious doctor's appointment, or a text that says, man, I know your heart is hurting and I'm praying for you. It could be a follow-up. It could even be the offer of, can I pray for you? It may be saying, I'm going to take a meal to you. It may be, it may be mowing the grass of somebody. It may be coming, all the things, the power of care. Maybe writing that note. We have some who do so well. It may be talking to a coworker and saying, hey, let's go to lunch tomorrow. I'll buy this, just so you give them the opportunity to talk. See, we need to see that the power of care in a small way is so huge within the impact of a person. Tabitha had the impact of care. She didn't have fanfare, but her influence was huge in small ways, in the small things. Praying for somebody, encouraging somebody. Obviously, within that culture, giving a robe, making a robe for somebody, making clothing for somebody. That was part of what she was doing for those widows within that. Man, our power of care. Talked yesterday with just a cousin of mine. How hard it was when his last child moved away, empty nest. Just in the small ways of saying, hey man, I know what you're going through. Or I'm praying for you in the small ways, the power of care. Do we have the power of care? The problem is we all would say, yes, I want to do that. I want to care for people. I want in the small ways. God, give me the insight to do that. But the problem is there is a price for care. There is a price of care. Life gets messy, does it not? And sometimes we look and say, well, I want to encourage or I'd like to affirm, but man, they may want more. Or God, I don't really want to step into that situation because it's going to get messy. The price of care in our life that says, man, I really have to die to self. But we're not talking in grand and great ways. It doesn't mean that there's areas where you say, I just can't handle that. But we have to get beyond thinking of ourselves. We have to get beyond that, of being selfish within that and saying, God, I'm willing to sacrifice. It may be nothing more than buying a card and writing a note. It may be sending a text, whatever, but I'm willing to step in and let them know I'm here. I'm caring for them. That's what Tabitha was doing in a great way. She was caring for the needs of others, caring for the needs of people. Serving unknown. It wasn't about being known. Peter didn't know about her until they came and got him. It wasn't like she was spread throughout all fame, but the people there knew her. The people there knew of her love and her care and her giving and the commitment. The price of care. It does take sacrifice, doesn't it? For us to care for people today, the price is usually time. Time is a commodity of this day. People won't serve in church. It takes time. People won't serve in ways, to see somebody else and do something to meet that need. Well, it's going to take me time. Time is the commodity. Time is the currency of this generation, is it not? How much time is it going to cost me? And yet many ways I'm talking about it's a small world. It's the small things that you're doing. It's the small ways that you can write a note, send a card, put your arm around somebody, pray for somebody. So what? So we talk about this and we all want that. So what has to happen to make that happen? What has to happen in us to make that happen? First, we need to listen. We need to listen. Our life group, we are finishing a study. Man, it's all the whisper of God, to be able to listen to God. It was a great study. It is a great study. That sometimes even in the midst of the chaos of all that's going on, to stop and have that listen. But what we're listening to needs to be the Spirit of God in your life. If you're a believer today, God's placed His Spirit within you. Are you just actively listening? Listening first to the Spirit of God, saying, God, make me aware. Give me a radar of spiritual needs or physical needs of things. Help me to look beyond myself, God. Help me not to be selfish. Help me to listen to the Spirit. Help me to listen to others of what they're saying. Help me to listen of ways that I can be involved in their life. Perhaps you need to listen to what's not being said. How can I be involved in somebody's life? The Spirit of God within us, He's a helpmeet. He comes alongside. And within that, He wants us to be a helpmeet to others. to meet the needs of others. I'm not talking about in dramatic ways. I'm talking about in those small, perhaps to you in significant ways. If I ask you today, write down who's been significant in your life, who has made an impact in your life, more than likely it would be somebody who was small and insignificant, and they may not even know the impact they've had in your life. They may not even know that the impact that has been brought into your sphere of influence because of what's been done. We need to listen to people. We need to look for ways to encourage. We need to look for ways to release a burden. I realize we can't do it all, but when the Spirit of God says, this person here, you need to do something, you need to help. It may be writing a card. Talking to somebody, and they said, man, it was just really cool. Single mom, needed registration paid on the car. And we were talking, and she said, you know what was so amazing is somebody came and paid the registration for my car. It's paid, it was done. There's ways that we, in simple ways, need to look and listen for ways to encourage. And all of that speaks of love. To love people and to love Jesus. To love Him. But I want to challenge you today to love the process of being Jesus. We are the ambassadors of a heavenly kingdom, of a heavenly citizenship. We are in many ways the visible representation of Jesus to others. Oh, it doesn't have to be in what you say. You don't have to get your big Bible and start thumping them on the head. But could you love the process? Could we begin to say, God, give us a love and an excitement and a joy in the process of being Jesus to people's lives? Because if you give a cup of cold water, right? You give a cup of cold water in the name of Jesus, you're being Jesus. And today, I think in many ways, we need to love the process of letting being Jesus seen through us in the small ways. In that note of encouragement, in that hug, in that care, not just on Sunday morning, but perhaps it may be something that you're talking to somebody, and it may be the greatest way of showing them Jesus. Do you love the process of being Jesus? For years you've heard me say, live in the wonder of knowing God. I think that is the process of being Jesus. Because when you see the wonder of God on display, when you see in somebody's life a small way that you made an impact, yet for them it's huge. Huge. I'm telling you what, I know how I enjoy, and some of you know that I enjoy, I do love the process. I love the process of surprising others. I love the process of saying, how can I be Jesus in this situation? I don't have to put Jesus, Jesus, Jesus on my forehead and knee sign, but can I minister to somebody in some way and say there's something different, and they say, wow, what is that about? Why did you do that? Or it's insignificant to me, but it may be great to them. But you know what the greatest thing about this is? It's not just me telling you that you need to do it. I need to do it. But I speak from experience. Not the experience of doing it, but the experience of being on the receiving end of it. Man, many times God uses people in my life, and they will think insignificant ways. Insignificant ways, and yet for me, wow. At the right moment, at the right time, they weren't seeking fanfare. They weren't seeking anything in response. It may be a note. It may be a card. It may be a text. It may be something so simple. There are some in great ways they've demonstrated that. But the issue of our heart is that do we love the process? Do we love the process? Teachable moment, and I say this, please hear my heart. It was not done as an illustration for this message at all. And there are those who would know this is the way I operate. I was at a restaurant, The waitress was there. I don't know the waitress. She was talking. She's a single mom. And she was going on vacation. Try to get away from her kids for a little bit, have fun. Just go. She goes, I under it. She had just taken in another daughter, basically, from a homeless family and put her in their house. And so I just felt the Lord, man, you know. So I walked out, went to the car, got some money, went back in there. I paid the bill and tip too, but don't worry. But I walked back in and I just said, you know, hey, I want you to go, and I want you to take, at some point in time, this is for you, just for you to enjoy. Sit back, whatever it may be. I don't know your life at all. Now, I don't say that to brag at all. I don't. I do it all the time. I mean, people who know me know that. In fact, I have my own little fund. I have my own little fund, honestly, of involved and being involved in giving. I get and I give, I get and I give. It's what I do. There was a person from our church, me, unbelievable, what are you doing? So I gave it to the gal. The gal, who are you? Why are you doing this? You know, you can't do that. Then she, you know, gave me a hug and yeah. So the lesson was, not too long later, I mean, within a day, I received that same amount back. Oh, but it gets better. So I text the person I'm with, this is how it works. I gave and I got. Now I get to give again. 2 days later, I got the same amount again. Okay, my little kitty here goes, okay, again. So I text the person back. Now I have twice as much to do it again. Okay, now I've done it again. I don't know if it's ever going to come back that way, but I love the process. Can we do that? Please don't. I'm not trying to put myself on a platform here at all in that way. But I'm just saying, when we take experience and we take reality that says, I want to impact people's lives in the smallest of ways. The note, the card, people you may not even know. Next time when I go back into that restaurant, guarantee you when she's back from her vacation, guarantee you when I sit down, I am going to have the opportunity, to share with her why I do what I did. To care for her. Tears coming down her face because somebody who didn't even know cares enough for her to have time with her. Now I get to do it again, and I did it again, and I do it again. Can we fall in love with the process of being Jesus and demonstrating Jesus to the world and not being so selfish in our life that it's all about me? We hear that story and someone say, man, I'll take the money. Would you take the money to give it again? Or would you take the money and say, hey, that could be good for Starbucks? Man, can we love the process of being Jesus? Can we love the process of saying, God, I want to be a Dorcas. I want to be a Tabitha. I want to be that person who's meeting the needs in a small way, but having a huge impact for the cause of Christ. We're a family. We want to love each other, but it must go beyond these walls. To the people, because we're citizens of heaven, they need to be seeing that man, there's somebody else that we serve. That our resources are being used. Not just selfish getting, but unselfish giving within that.